Hello, everybody. This is Devin
Hello.
Francis, aka Leonard Meltzner.
And this is a fan of Adventures in Odyssey.
Also known as Victoria, and you're watching the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast episode 48. We're almost at episode 50.
What are we gonna do for episode 50?
I have absolutely no idea whatsoever.
I don't think we should buy another cake, because I didn't really eat any of the last cake.
No,
I just kind
you
of
didn't.
poked it with a fork
Yeah,
for the whole episode.
and I ate the entire rest of the cake, and it was wonderful.
Are you serious?
I don't think anyone else had any other pieces.
Yikes.
It was good. Oh, wait,
Where does it all
I
go?
ate it over the
I
span.
can tell you.
Jimmy, that's not very nice. I ate it over the span of a while. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. What we are here to talk about is,
Adventures in Odyssey.
more specifically,
The Ties That Bind, Part 7.
and,
Part 8.
yes. But first,
Our Part 7 review.
correct. So let's begin with episode 757, The Ties That Bind, Part 7, written, of course, once again by Paul McCusker.
Our beautiful Paul McCusker.
All
so
right.
dear to our hearts.
Episode description?
Okay, a lot happens in this episode as opposed to the last one.
Oh,
So
what doesn't
much
happen,
happens.
however, though, is the Room of Consequence adventure, which I wasn't expecting.
I feel like when that does come up, they're going to devote a lot of the episode to that, so I think it's better
Probably.
not to have it in this one.
Based on what
'cause
Wit said about
if
how
they
it was the
tried to,
hardest
like,
program he's
push
ever
it
written.
in this one, and they just tried to, like, finish it, it'd be way too rushed. So
Yeah, that's true.
I want them to take their time with it.
Good point.
Okay. So, Pull House starts investigating the break-in at Wooten's house.
Wooten's house.
Wooten's house. Where did she
Go
come
on.
from? They were trying to figure out who's responsible for the break-in. Dee Grant has a meal at Hal's Diner with Wooten, and she reveals that she'd like the comics to take an angstier approach. Connie knows that Jules is up to something involving Vance. The Vandals hit the Wits End website. And we find out that Dee Grant is owned...
And Maximize Comics, by extension.
Yeah. Dee Grant works for Maximize Comics is owned by the same company as Odyssey Times, the filming down at Hangman's Hollow, the ghost town place. And they sponsored the Let's Get Together festival. And the man who owns them is Mr. Schwartz.
Schwarzenegger.
What?
Schwarzenegger.
No.
The governor of California.
The governor of all things suspicious.
I am the Californiator. Okay, okay, so we start out with Pull House and Wooten.
I love Pull House.
He's great,
He's
but...
so entertaining.
But why are congoers suspicious to you, Detective Pull House? You just moved down a few notches on my list.
I think he saw some Homestucks, and he's never been the same since. He's probably walking through a mall, and he saw like Homestucks cosplaying with Santa and sitting on his
That is highly probable.
Homestuck trash.
I guess. And, wow. Hadley really is Wooten's cousin, because those were quite the sound effects that he made. When he screamed, it actually sounded like Jess was making the noise.
Maybe it was.
It was quite shocking. I honestly can't tell if the ambiguities in Hadley's story about the robbery are a weakness or the most possible cleverest thing, since
I don't
a
know.
liar has the most specific and thought-out, detailed story of all. Is he mad or a genius? Wow,
It's Hadley.
he really-
He's not a genius.
he really is a Bassett. Apparently.
Unless he's like a closet genius. and
You
it's
didn't
just-
let me finish my sentence. I was like, is he mad or a genius? Wow, he really is a Bassett. Thanks for messing up,
I'm
Victoria.
sorry.
I wasn't expecting a mystery about who did the robbery, honestly. I use
either.
mystery in the broadest possible sense, of course, because we know it was Hadley. But I really didn't think that suspicion would be spread between Wooten's three subplots. So I'm curious about how the three of them play into this season together.
I'm kind of excited for that,
Mm.
actually, because that means we get to explore all of those people in different lights.
Yeah.
And
We've only heard like one thing about Hugo Wells, so you have
yeah,
to delve into that.
Hugo Wells. Ho ho ho.
Uh,
It'd be interesting if Hadley wasn't the Perilous Pen. I mean, he obviously
I know, I was
is,
actually thinking about that. I was like,
but-
the biggest plot twist would be if he wasn't. Because ever since, like, the first episode, we've been like, obviously, he's the Perilous Pen. So I know maybe that's what we're supposed to think. I mean, I guess obviously that is what we're supposed to think, which now I'm actually confused about it, honestly. They've made it too obvious, and now I'm wondering.
I think it's still Hadley, but they're just...
My certainty is slowly diminishing slightly.
Look what you've done, Odyssey.
Paul. He's being really sneaky about it.
He's being sneaky
by being really oblique about
obvious
it.
and not being obvious at the same time.
Darn overthinking and double overthinking. And I really hope that Jules sticks around Odyssey long
Me
term.
too.
I really, really want to hear more of her development for like
I want to
forever.
hear Jules interact with Buck.
Yeah,
I can't stress that enough.
Her and Buck, both of them, they're basically like the Kelly and Grady of the current era.
Except for Grady is more... I wouldn't really say Grady.
But no, because Kelly and Grady both had... They were a boy and girl who had concurrent arcs, who were unbelievers coming to Christianity as they had simultaneous arcs moving throughout the show in connection to learning with main characters. And that's what Jules and Buck both have right now.
Okay. Either way, I'm excited for things involving them.
Oh, okay.
Full House is just so entertaining. He reminds me a little bit of Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec because he's just like so blunt yet so sarcastic at the same time.
Working for the government but being like a libertarian and hating the government at the same time.
Yeah, he's
that's a really good description.
A mess of contradictions, and it's just so wonderful.
I like that. The really annoying thing about Hadley sowing all this suspicion about everyone the annoying thing about that is that it's not like Wooten and Penny haven't considered that he's a perilous pen.
Yeah,
I mean, they decided that they thought it was definitely him right before the robbery happened. Has that not crossed their minds again since because of what he did?
I'm hoping that they're not saying anything because
they actually are still thinking about it. That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping that I don't know. It seems something that Devin and I both picked up on because I think this is the first episode in quite a while that we've listened to at the same time.
In a
really long time.
Since before we started the Oddcast, I guess.
Yeah, I think the last episode we listened to at the same time was Green Ring Conspiracy Part 4 or something like that.
Probably. For the first time, that is.
Yeah, for the first time. But they kind of seem to be changing plots. Kind of like each episode is a different thing. Like next episode's probably going to talk about Buck and the Let's Get Together festival more.
And Olivia in the Room of Consequence.
And Olivia. The next episode's going to have the Room of Consequence thing, and then after that, it's going to be more Hadley and all of that stuff.
Although it won't necessarily alternate.
Not necessarily, but it seems to be
your point
doing that a lot.
About Wooten and Penny?
Probably not the next episode, but the episode after that, there will probably be a scene of them talking together about how they think it might be Hadley.
That is a relevant point.
I feel like Penny's definitely more, it's totally Hadley than Wooten is.
Yeah.
But as long as she keeps on pushing him towards the fact that it's Hadley,
that's the important thing.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
If it hasn't crossed their minds again since the robbery happened, then Hadley really timed the fake robbery perfectly.
It's only a flesh wound.
Jules' line about, next thing you'll be telling me you have a theater with electric lights. I can't tell if that was supposed to be a meta joke because she's using Whit's words verbatim from some time long ago that I can't think of specifically when he was describing different things in Whit's End. Or she is being sarcastic because she toured the place yesterday and Charity saw the little theater. I honestly can't tell which way I'm supposed to take that line.
What was the line she said before about libraries?
She's like, I can't believe you guys have a library here too. What? Do you next thing you'll be telling me you have a theater with electric lights? At least we know that Connie knows that Jules is up to something.
Yes, I let out, and I'm guessing you did a collective sigh of relief.
Yeah, and what's more, she also knows about Jules and Vance having a connection together, which is a lot more. That made me very happy. That was more than I was expecting, so that's good. the with a side of moo juice
that was
quietly
so
in the background
great.
at Hal's Diner. I was like, I haven't heard that in a while.
Was so
What's
great.
More, that episode, that line before was in an episode opener with Chris for Have You No Cell Perks, to be specific.
Did
although
Paul write that one?
I can't remember. I could check. But it's also interesting because that line. Oh, there's 124 views. that line was not taking place at Hal's Diner, but at, what was it, Chez Odyssey, or something like that.
I think that was it. Yeah.
All these things that appear in Chris's intros, these buildings that don't exist ever again, ever.
Yeah.
Have you... I remembered because...
Maybe everything, all those buildings have, like, perception filters on them.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Chris the only one who can break
That's
through.
the obvious
she's really meta.
Phil Lawler.
Oh, referencing your old episodes.
You mean someone else's old episodes?
That's what I said, because it's Paul.
And Phil, yeah. Although Phil was in this episode, of course, because he was Del Jacobs.
Okay, talk about your next point.
Okay. Once again, Victoria hit the nail directly on the head, 100%. About
I'm so smart.
Maximized Comics wanting to change Wooten's artistic direction for Sleuth
remember
Family
saying
Robinson
that at
away
all.
from a Christian worldview.
I don't remember saying that.
Yeah, another point to Victoria.
When did I say
really
that?
losing very badly in terms of predictions for this album.
When did I say that, though?
You said that you bet that Maximized Comics would want to take Wooten's comic and they would want to change a bunch of stuff to make it angstier and darker and not so much about how they're all family and they get together and
said
stuff.
That?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a genius.
That's why
because
we were listening at the same time, and I was typing stuff on my notes on my computer, and Victoria was sitting there, and I was trying, when I paused it there to time the notes, I expected Victoria to look at me and like give me a look like, I guessed it directly on.
I'm just like doing things on my computer and not paying attention.
So yeah. I
don't remember saying that, because the only time I ever hear the opinions are when we're directly recording. I never re-listen to things.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrible.
I totally forgot that I wrote this here, but it turns out I was also directly right or indirectly right. D. Grant said she had some other business in the area to take care of, and I thought I wouldn't be at all surprised if her other business in the area had to do with Hangman's Hollow.
It doesn't count as much if it's a prediction in episode.
So, it was right, though. It was to do with Dale Jacobs, but it was also to do with the other businesses in the area, which includes what's going on in Hangman's Hollow.
You get a half point for that.
Okay.
Am I winning?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're trouncing me, apparently. But line about, do you expect the Vandals to make a follow-up call? Whit is so sassy around Bullhouse. I'll take more of their conversations together any day, because
need a spin-off.
They're such a great dynamic duo together.
The line about Bullhouse's wife.
Oh my goodness.
That's like Devin's favorite line.
In 53, they had so many good, like, instances of
like,
witty repartee together.
That's the smell of justice. Oh, it smells like popcorn. Which is also the smell of justice.
Yeah, exactly what I was talking about 2 episodes back, but the last episode that we reviewed, part 6, I talked about the need for making reference to the New Testament and the New Covenant in talking about this stuff. After the training example and stuff, not talking about prelapsarian stuff or Mosaic law or stuff like that. Excuse me, that while that can be supporting argument, you need a foundation in the New Covenant, because there's other stuff in there that you could also pull out from the Old Testament, which does not apply anymore. And that is exactly what Whit did. So see, I'm making these suggestions once again, and Whit is catering to my needs.
I told you.
Well, I didn't
I told
disagree with you.
I told you like an hour ago when we were recording that.
Yeah, I know, and I agreed with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another prediction. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So yeah, Whit was bringing up New Testament scripture, Matthew 19, I think, and Jesus' own words, no less. So that's exactly what I was talking about last time. Super great. Okay, last 5, maybe 4 minutes of this episode, as we come up to
Holy snap.
As we come up to the exact center of this saga, the end of part 7, everything changed, like,
everything.
Boom.
We have a villain.
I'm not sure Victoria even realizes how much it changed, because I think she might have forgotten something that's the biggest plot twist of this whole thing.
No, but Devin, we have a villain now. Think about it. Halfway through Darkness Before Dawn, that's when Blackguard showed up. Mm-hmm. And now halfway through this, our Mr. Schwartz is showing up.
Okay, so first I heard, like, part of the same corporate family talking about Maximize Comics and the Odyssey Times. So they are owned... Let me go through it. They are owned by the same parent corporation. As you will recall, last time that parent company was Andromeda Incorporated, and the other sister company in question was Novacom. Now they're owned by another company. Well, actually, they're owned by another company, which we found out about in
Labyrinth.
The Labyrinth, yeah. Trying to think of the name. And they then got bought by another company. They got bought by another company, or possibly the same company still, which we found out about in Life Expectancies.
Connie's dad.
Because that's what Bill Kendall works for.
That was actually... Is that the thing you were saying that I might not
Yeah.
have thought? That was the first thing I thought of.
Darn it.
I was thinking, oh my gosh, Connie's dad.
That's the first thing I thought of, yeah. Okay, so now they're owned by another company, and it's even more significant because not only does that cast Max Comics in a dark light, but we know from Life Expectancy that Bill Kendall works for the same parent corporation which owns the Times of Maximize Comics. That ties Jules and all of her schemes with Vance and Comic Connellsville into everything else.
Oh, I didn't
which is
think
what I
about
was
that
talking
part.
about. Yeah,
I didn't think.
Jules and
But
everything.
think about it. Last time a parent of one of the main characters was involved with the evil company, they died. Connie's dad's gonna die.
Oh, you're talking about Katrina. Yeah, that's true. That's the same parallel here as Board of Directors Armitage Shanks. Yeah, it's crazy, especially because when we listen to Life Expectancies, I heard that line. I was like, huh, that's a really interesting piece of trivia. I was like, I bet that's going to, like, I wonder if that's ever going to play into something in the future. Point to Devon.
Like, how many times has
Which means...
it been bought out?
A lot. Remember, that was like the whole... I was going to say Phil. Dale said that line about how you might as well put a revolving door on
just,
the
like,
deed
think
to the
about
company.
it. So, like, Labyrinth, Bill, Mr. Schwartz, there's Novacom, Andromeda, there's the original one, and I'm pretty sure they're also bought out at different times, so minimum 5 times.
I don't think there's another time.
Okay, so minimum 4 times.
Well, technically minimum 3, because the
Minimum
Labyrinth
3.
buyout could be the same buyout that Bill works for.
I don't think it is.
It could be. That could have been foreshadowing ever since the
minimum
Labyrinth.
3, and the majority of those have happened quite recently in the last couple albums.
Yeah.
I just love Dale being involved in things
no, the
again.
majority, I mean, one of them happened recently. One of them happened like 20
Dale.
albums ago. And then the other one's been since episode 1,
Okay,
basically.
when they said we want to merge things, I thought they were saying we want Jules to marry this person, the son of this company, and I'm just
That's
like,
Vance.
what?
Vance is the son of the other company.
Jules and Vance are gonna get
Arranged
hitched.
marriage,
They're
yeah.
gonna get arranged marriage.
Anyways, okay, so the plot twist continues
over
because
Facebook.
apparently Hangman's Hollow is a part of this too. We finally find out what's going on there. They're filming a TV show which is called Family Survivor. So I guess it's like Survivor, but in family groups. So it's kind of like...
If Wooten and his family went on, they'd kill him first.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Even Stevens movie, I guess. So that ties in the family theme like we were expected, but it also ties in Jules and Maximize Comics and this ominous Mr. Schwartz who owns the company. And this really is Novacom all over again, isn't it? So that line about a battle for the heart of the town in this album might not have been an exaggeration about gay propaganda after all. It really is happening apparently.
Mr. Schwartz is gonna get... because, like, they're trying to get Wooten, so think about that. That means they're gonna own all of Wooten's comics. They're gonna have, like, Captain Absolutely and Power Boy and Swiss Family Robinson or whatever they're called, I always forget.
Yeah.
Is that it?
And everything else, yeah.
And, like, everything, and Drake the Cosmic Copper. Oh my gosh, if they ruin Drake the Cosmic Copper, that is perfect.
Victoria, calm down.
It's perfect already. I don't need
Obviously,
them to
Wooten's
touch
not going to sign with them because they already showed their hand about their changes. Anyways, so
yeah.
I wonder now if Jules winning a contest to come to Odyssey wasn't a coincidence, which obviously wasn't a coincidence, but maybe it's connected to the fact that her dad works for the same company that owns Maximized Comics then.
Yeah, it seems way too much of a coincidence now that you
And
that.
they're also invested in the festival. What on earth is going on here? Like, Mr. Schwartz clearly has some very very personal involvement in the town of Odyssey. He's gay blackguard. Back from the dead.
That's gonna become like a meme or something.
It already is. Has some sort of very personal involvement in Odyssey, which means he's been here before, which leaves the very, very real question of if we have met Mr. Schwartz before or not. In fact,
Mr. Charles.
Considering he's the head of a mega corporation with subdivisions all throughout Odyssey, including the Odyssey Times, and invested in other areas, things in the area to keep hold over it, I would not be half surprised if he was the chairman of Andromeda Incorporated.
Oh, remember, was it Jumbo Fork's theory that the Perilous Pen was the chairman?
I think she might have said that.
That was a theory she had. and it might end up being that she is right. And
Crack posts on Tumblr come through again.
Yeah, and not the Perilous Pen.
No, but yeah.
Can you imagine if the Perilous Pen is owned somehow by that? Or he's like a mercenary kind of internet thing.
An internet mercenary.
An internet mercenary. Oh, I need that to be a thing. I will shoot down your blog.
Oh, well, it's basically what's happening to Wit right now, but...
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Oh, Wit. We should...
All that happened, like... Wow, the last,
in a couple minutes.
Last 3 to 5 minutes, bringing us up to the halfway mark of this arc with the biggest plot twist of the entire album so far, which makes sense because we're coming up to the halfway mark, but wow, things just kicked up a notch. Yeah, and it ended really ominously, like she's talking all about, like, she kept on talking about how things would change very soon, and things were moving into motion. They wanted to bring the family together, which sounds more like a mafia kind of thing than a mega corporation, but we want to bring the family together, bring it all of...
Oh, it's mob! It's the enemy mob.
The rival gang, the Felt. They want to bring all of their worldviews together and coalesce together, and man, D. Grant just became an antagonist here, and she was
part of me's not surprised that she became an antagonist.
I am. I thought she was just going to be some random little side plot to distract from the Perilous Pen.
I don't know, there's just... something about her. I don't know. I part of me feels like I never really trusted her when she came up to Wooten that first time. So when I heard that she's an antagonist, part of me is just like, huh.
Yeah, but I didn't expect her to be an overt antagonist, I guess. I mean, she became that kind of person, like, you know, they shouldn't sign with her, but it's not like she's actually, like, evil, which is apparently what's going on now.
I just love Dale's, like, is that a threat? And she's just like, it maybe is, and then she leaves, like, and then I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so great.
This whole episode just, like, kicked the stakes up tenfold, which I wasn't expecting.
It didn't really feel, in my opinion, like it was the halfway point. Either it didn't feel like it was the halfway point, or it felt like it was past the halfway point. This actually felt like the halfway point. It's just like, okay, everything I thought we knew, we didn't know, and everything
it wasn't Plan B, but it was still big.
We now know part of, and
yeah, it wasn't Plan B, but it was something. So
there's so many like Green Ring and Novacom parallels with like them owning everything. And
yeah, I know. This is the album 50 of crazy sagas.
Everything's gonna go crazy. I'm just thinking about Buck, and he's just gonna be like, play the hero card. I'll be like,
just
no,
wait till
Buck,
Mr. Schwartz is actually Mr. Skint or something.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine if Mr. Skint works for him? And it'll be that confrontation I want to happen really in my fan heart, but I don't want to happen in my emotional heart because it'll be sad.
Okay, we should turn over to the next episode now. Part 8. Yeah, I think so. Did you have anything else you want to add? What about Hadley?
He's like, why? Hadley bothers me on so many levels.
Don't see now. I can't imagine why.
We'll talk more about him
when he actually comes back. Yeah. So things are happening. Wheels are in motion.
Things are going down.
So
like the Titanic.
Yeah. We will spin you guys over to Ties That Bind Part 8, so Devin and Victoria can review that whenever it happens. Maybe tomorrow, hopefully.
Maybe tomorrow.
Until then, let's just swoosh. Hey everybody, we're back, and look, Devin's in a new apartment now. I live in Alberta. It's cold here. It's not that bad, actually, but it is very cold. And
I'm in the same spot.
Yeah, my life is more exciting, but also I work a lot, too, and it's tiring because I stand for 8 hours a day cleaning peas.
Anyway, no one cares about your life.
No,
let's move on.
It's true. Okay, so we are now on the Ties That Bind Part 8, and I'm not going to be able to stop myself from, like, talking quietly, because I'm worried that the sound's going to, like, bother my apartment neighbors, even though it's only 9 o'clock. Anyways, the The Ties That Bind, Part 8, Episode 758, written by Paul McCusker. What's it about, Victoria?
Okay, so in this episode, Whit goes to a meeting with Miss Adelaide.
And a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, and like a whole bunch of other people on the council. Town council? Was it town council? It was some kind of council.
It's the
in
Business
Odyssey.
Association.
Yeah. And so Miss Adelaide brings up the fact that she has a brother who is in the hospital for reasons unknown. She blames groups like Christians and Wit for why her brother's in the hospital. At the end of the episode, Wit passes out. There's also some stuff with Connie where she says that I can't remember if this was in the episode before. She knows that Jules is...
That was the episode before, yeah.
Okay, never mind. What else happened?
There is a thing, I can see from my notes, there is something with Jules, and she talks to someone about whatever's going on with the plan, but I don't remember a whole lot more. Eugene and Buck are also in the scene. I can tell from my notes. It's been a long time since I listened to it.
Eugene and Buck. I haven't listened to this episode in...
I did listen to it significantly after Victoria did, though, and as a result, she kept hounding me to listen to it.
You do it to me with every single episode, so you have no place to talk.
I'm letting them know for context of the notes that you kept hounding me to listen to it because of a big, huge, life-changing plot twist that was coming. That you're like,
I never said it was a plot twist.
Yes, you did.
I never said that. No, I did not. I never said it was a plot twist.
Are you sure?
I said it was something very important that's going to change everything, but I didn't say it was a
yes,
plot
that's
twist.
what it was. Something that would change everything. I assumed that you meant a plot twist.
No. You naive soul.
I really haven't written a whole lot about this episode, based on the description, and not so much on my memory, because I can't remember. Doesn't seem like a whole ton happens in it, but the main issue of this episode is, of course, Miss Adelaide's brother.
Yeah.
Who could he be? It sounds extremely suspicious. My first guess was that this was Victoria's...
Mr. X.
My first guess was this must be Victoria's plot twist. Who's Miss Adelaide's brother? Is it Guy Blackard? Is it Mr. Schwartz? Is it the chairman? These were the first three guesses that came to my mind.
Oh, you must have been so disappointed.
I was, honestly. After all that you built it up to. Although, in the context of everything we've talked about on this podcast ever, it's pretty huge. No,
that's what I meant by it's going to change everything. I wasn't really talking about Odyssey as much as I was talking about the podcast.
Well, yes, I understood in retrospect.
For those poor, poor ignorant souls that do not know of what we are speaking, in this marvelous episode, oh my goodness, the heavens opened up, angels sang, I saw the light, and it was beautiful.
Hand up was mentioned.
Hand up.
They mentioned hand
Holy
up.
heck.
I did not know how to respond to it. It was shocking.
It was so amazing.
I passed out for 12 minutes-ish. Yeah.
What was your reaction?
Medium shock.
You pause it?
Yeah, because I had to write a note of like...
What happened was we were on a road trip when I was listening to Part 8.
Oh, yes.
And I was listening to it in my headphones. Devin had not heard Part 8 yet. I was also
asleep, I would like to mention.
Devin was asleep. Yeah, I'm going to mention this. So my dad's driving, Mom in the passenger seat, me in the back, and then Devin sleeping. I'm listening to the episode, just staring out the window. Hear Connie, Eugene, Whit talking. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah. And then Connie's like, hey, you had to be on the business council because of Hand Up, right, Eugene? And then I just pause. I just pause, and I'm just like, I'm just hitting Devin. I'm like screaming. I'm like, Devin! And then Devin's like, just let me die, leave me alone, and stuff. And he was very, very tired. I woke him up, and I'm like, have you listened to part 8 yet? He's like, no, go away.
I wasn't
like,
very happy.
Devin, you need to... And he's like, and he fell back asleep. I'm like, And then I rewound it, and I listened to it again. And then I rewound it, and I listened to it again.
Okay.
And I think I did this about 5 more times.
Here's the funny thing,
I was
though.
practically screaming.
The day before I finally listened to it was the day that I was editing the previous episode of the Oddcast, in which we discussed The Perfect Gift, along with A Change of Heart. And in The Perfect Gift, about 90 seconds in, Victoria threw a 5-minute long temper tantrum
and I don't
about
regret
hand up erasure, and I showed it to I watched it twice, and then I showed it to Victoria, and then I
Devin
showed it
was
to
like
Mom,
crying, laughing,
and then I showed it to
editing.
Dad. So on the day before I watched it, and Victoria, wanting me to listen to it so I could find out about hand up, and I didn't know about this
well.
yet.
You have to admit, I was doing really well. I just kept on telling him he had to listen to it. I didn't tell him why. But I was just like, you have to listen to it. And he showed me this. And this was the breaking point for me. Because I'm just like, I can't not say anything. It has been like a week.
She didn't tell me what happened, but about 3 separate times during the day, she asked me, Devin, what would you think if they just mentioned hand up in an episode? Like, they just mentioned it offhand. Would you be, like, angry? Or would you be surprised? And I was like, I don't know. And so when they finally mentioned the episode, I was shocked, and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. I was like, no wonder Victoria's been dropping questions about hand up all day long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was like...
I have a lot more to say about hand up, but let's talk about something else for now.
Okay, whoever the liaison for the business association is, I don't know his name.
Let's come up with a name for him.
Lenny.
I like that name.
Sorry?
I like that name.
Lenny said, the business association is like a family. And
I thought you were talking about the evil dude.
No, that's Mr. Schwartz.
Oh, right.
No, the head of the association. He's like,
I want a villain to be named Lenny.
He's like, the business association is like a family. And I was like, I've heard that phrase before. I don't suppose that Mr. Schwartz is throwing any generous donations your way, perhaps, Mr. Lenny. So yeah, I'm assuming that was an indication that, Andromeda 2.0 is closing in its fingers on Odyssey.
Well, they did say that they work for him, and they sponsor him in the episode.
No.
Yeah?
In this episode?
Yeah.
He sponsors the Let's Get Together festival and stuff, but they never mention the business association to my memory.
Oh. I thought they did. Well, then I must have come to that conclusion, too. Like I said, it's been a while since I listened to this.
So we have our cut to whatever happens with Jules and Buck and Eugene and probably Connie, and something really interesting comes up. Because so far, with Jules' storyline, with whatever's going on with her, I've been assuming that, being her angsty gothic self, decided to get involved with, some shady scam that connected her with Vance King, and she went to Odyssey and stuff like this. And then something very interesting came up, because as she was describing the situation to whomever it was, I can't remember.
I think it was Whit.
It was Whit. Yes, thank you.
Because he found her in the room. I'm like, oh, we were right about the Richard. She is sneaking around. So
I remember now. She's talking to Whit.
For that.
The interesting thing, she sounds like she's being coerced into whatever's going on, which is very unexpected. Like, it sounds like she is doing this against her will. So now I'm very curious and even more concerned for Jules. And with last episode's connection of her to her dad to this whole Mr. Schwartz whatever company, that is very concerning if Jules is doing something against her will. Like, perhaps she's being pressured into doing something in order to try and keep her dad's job or something along those lines. Possibly just spitballing an Erica Colburn type scenario.
I told you she was Erica.
Yes, you did.
Multiple times. I'm just calling everything in this saga. I am Paul. Aren't I?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyways, yeah, that was interesting. Oh, and then Jewel says, "Do you think Buck would like a drink?" And Eugene says, "A lemonade, maybe?" And I was like, offhanded comment or clever quip/reference?
Oh, man. I hope
I
he
don't
said
know.
that
I
on
really hope that
purpose.
was on purpose, because if so, that's very funny.
No, I want there to be this whole thing where Eugene's always offering Buck lemonade at home. And then
Headcanon.
one day Katrina just like pulls him to the side. She's like, Eugene, stop it. And he's like, just in case.
Headcanon accepted. Check.
And then every now and then Buck's just like sad or something. He's like, Eugene, can I have a lemonade? And Eugene's just like, what? Why would we have lemonade? And stuff. And he's like, what?
It's funny. I saw the post on Tumblr again last night where it's like coming up with a sad headcanon about something to depress your friends. Nice. Accidentally making yourself sad with that headcanon. And it made me think of when we did Buried Sin. And I came up with that thing about Thomas Newcastle becoming a doctor to try and save lives, to atone for taking the life of...
in the triangle where I mentioned with visiting Jenny's grave and the stuff in War Hero,
yeah,
etc.
Oh, we're so bad to each other.
We are.
Okay, big paragraph here. This is very interesting about Miss Adelaide's brother and whatever's going on here. The most likely assumption that I would make is that her brother was the victim of some serious hate crime for his sexual or gender identity, and which is a huge issue in society. So that's my most likely guess based on what Miss Adelaide said, because the persecution of the LGBTQIA community is immense. The physical and emotional abuse they suffer is unimaginable, and the suicide rates as a result of that are shocking. I grabbed some quick stats as I was writing this. The NTDS did a survey for 2014 reporting that trans men and trans women have a suicide attempt proportion of 46% and 42% respectively. So that's 46% of adult trans men have attempted suicide, 42% of trans women. That's a lot of people. And that's not to speak of non-binary or gender fluid people. And Leila Alcorn's recent suicide is a very high-profile example that's been all over the news and all over the internet in the last couple of weeks. Just an example of that. Also, I found out, terrifyingly, it is legal in every US state except for California to plead trans panic, which is you kill a trans person because you panicked because someone's trans and you didn't know what else to do, so you killed them. And that is a legal defense in court. What? To call. You can legally plead, I had trans panic, they were transgender, I didn't know what to do, so I killed them. In 49 states, that is a legal defense in court. It very rarely passes, but you can legally plead that as a defense in court in 49 states. And if that doesn't speak to the persecution of the trans community, I don't know what does. So it's because of reasons like these that there's such a real practical need for support and aid and protection and resources in this community, even if you don't support their actions, because lives are at stake here. That's something I've thought about throughout this album so far, and I'm glad it's being addressed, assuming that that is what Miss Adelaide's brother is in the hospital for.
No, the stuff with Miss Adelaide's brother reminded me a bit of the stuff with Armitage, if it is, in fact, a similar situation. It's a teensy bit of a parallel-ish if you really stretch it.
To Armitage?
Wait, no.
Or
no,
are you
like
thinking of...
Never mind.
Are you thinking of Monica Stone and Duncan Mathis? More like she's doing things to try and avenge her brother or something like that?
I don't know, it just seems something very Novacom-y.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I thought that was very timely, if my assumptions are correct. I mean, like I said, him being the victim of a hate crime for something related to gender or sexual identity seems the most likely thing, but it's not necessarily it. And that would be a pretty heavy thing to do, but hey, it's not like Odyssey's one to steer clear of heavy issues. Example, this entire album. And then the episode closes with, wow, Wit's health. I completely forgot about that. He just
dead.
passes
I
out.
forgot about that too.
He just passes out at the meeting.
What was your reaction?
I knew.
'Cause I was still sitting in the car. Remember this. I was sitting in the car. Dad's driving. He doesn't like it when we're loud when he's driving because he was like listening to music and stuff. And I already woke you up, so I got in a bit of trouble for that because I was like yelling at you and you're like, and they're like, let him sleep. And so I'm just sitting there internally screaming. I probably have like the most shocked look on my face. I'm just like rocking back and forth and I'm like, I can't handle it.
Last time when we were like counting up all the plot lines and stuff, I knew that there was one that we were forgetting. And that's what it was. So yeah, he just passed out. Eerily similar to Jenny passing out at the town council meeting.
You thought of that too?
I just thought of that right now. Not up until right now. Sad high five.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him, for one thing? And two,
I don't know.
Here's a guess. Is he going to meet Miss Adelaide's brother in the hospital and get to know him without realizing that it's Miss Adelaide's brother?
Ah, snap, man. That'd be awesome. That would be great. No, it just makes me so sad because if they are going to, in fact, kill off Wit, then I'm just like, Jason Connie.
I hope that's Jason Connie, not Jason Connie.
No,
okay,
it's Jason Connie far away from each other.
Just making sure.
No, Connie's over here with Jeff, and Jason's over here with the antique shop. Jason's over here with his career, the only woman he needs in his life.
I think he's being... That's not good news for his marriage fidelity if his career is his weapon. He's like we said before, he has a pretty abusive flip-floppy relationship with the government secret services.
Yeah, which is why his job is his wife. It's an abusive relationship on both sides.
But it's finally stabilized now, hopefully, ostensibly.
What do you want to bet it's only going to last 3 albums?
I want to bet money. I want to bet money it's going to last a long time. Forever.
That's I want to bet money it's going to only last a couple albums.
No.
I honestly don't think it's going to last that long.
Neither do I. But I can hope.
You know I'm right.
I know.
He's never gone like 5 albums without doing something like that.
I know. He's like, I've quit for good this time. Yeah, I've heard
seriously,
that one before.
How many times has he quit for good? There's the first time.
Now I'm 22.
And then, a name, not a number.
And he comes back for, a search for wit. He reinstates himself.
Yeah, and then, Malachi's message. He does it again.
And then he has to kill himself, and now I'm 50. And then he comes back for 53. And then he goes to London and the labyrinth and stuff. And then he quits again.
And then he also, gets his job back to help Eugene and Leonard.
Yeah, I said that one. So.
And now he's, so that's, 7 or something like that?
No. It's not that many times.
Okay, I was counting going back and forth. It's
if you count back and forth,
or 5.
It's at least 5 or 7 times if you count the flip-flopping.
If you just do single times, it's 4 or 5.
Yeah, 3 to 5, something in there. Yeah, it's
pretty ridiculous.
Anyways, what else do you have to say about this episode, Victoria?
Okay. So, I can't remember if I feel like I've said this before in past episodes. So I said, we'll probably end up mentioning hand up in every single episode, which we've done until it's actually mentioned. And then I said, what would we even do once it gets mentioned? It has been mentioned.
Correct.
We aren't going to mention it any less, though, probably.
Probably not, no.
I can probably guarantee that.
Because we're still experiencing hand-up erasure. It's still going to continue to be glossed over forever and always. Hand-up
is the Jeff Lewis. That's how important it is to us.
Is the Jeff Lewis.
The Jeff Lewis.
Okay, then. That made sense.
Thank you. So, I'm glad that it was mentioned. And it's just hey, Eugene needs to be in this place in time, at this place in time. Oh, wait. We can mention hand up. No one will think about it. It's convenient. Let's do that. And then they do. And in all honesty, part of me is just like cheering, fiesta party, really happy, streamers, confetti, the whole works.
Dramatic.
Thank you. That Hand Up has been mentioned. The other part is just like screaming off in the distance with fire just shooting
Just
out of
screaming.
its mouth. Just screaming. Because...
Not like exclamations of joy or praise or any emotion, just
screaming.
Welcome to Night
And
Vale.
it's a scream made up of multiple things. One of the things is joy, like the aforementioned birthday party of happiness. The other part is pure rage.
It's like a well-rounded Neapolitan scream.
Indeed
Taste
it
the
is.
rainbow. Whenever we start on these
Because-
tangents, I always want it to get to the point where I can comfortably say, and now, the weather. Which now you can finally appreciate.
I can. But anyway, anywho, I am actually kind of upset that they mentioned Hand Up.
Yeah, it's a complicated emotion.
Because it's almost as complicated as Jason and his job. Let's be honest here. We're really happy that Hand Up was mentioned because it just disappeared, basically, never to be mentioned again. Especially in really convenient times, see the Perfect Gift episode review beginning with my rant. Because with Hand Up being mentioned, that brings up questions like, what did happen to Hand Up?
Yeah.
And why didn't you use the edulinks in A Perfect Gift? And like, why didn't you use Hand Up here? Oh, this would have been convenient. Why didn't you do this?
Yeah,
Oh, look,
it's
we
even
could
more
have done this.
infuriating.
Oh, Jeff needs people to help him with this thing. We should help him do that using Hand Freaking Up.
They
But,
can't
like,
just like mention it and leave it there. It's worse than if you didn't
It
say anything at
is.
all.
I want to say I'm glad, but I can't bring myself to say that.
You can't bring
because-
it back without bringing it back in full. You need to explain what the heck's been going on for the last, like,
Yeah,
9 albums.
because honestly, if it was never mentioned, we'd still talk about it.
Especially
we're
'cause
still gonna
as-
talk about it.
As we
But,
pointed
like-
out way back in the day, there was an entire 3-parter dedicated to the idea that Eugene and Katrina can't go to Africa because Hand Up and their ministry with Hand Up is so important and critical to who they are and God's purpose in their lives right now. And that was the last time it was ever mentioned.
Actually, it was mentioned in 50 a couple times.
That's true. Touche.
It's the same thing with the
Mandy.
Strasbergs.
Yeah, I know. They're like, we wanted
So,
to keep
like,
the
it's like we
Strasbergs in
have to
Odyssey
keep
because
the
we felt we had
Strasbergs
more
in
stories to tell
Odyssey.
with them. And then Mandy
But-
appeared in a play with Trent, and that was the last we ever saw of her ever again.
Granted, I like that episode, but still.
It was cool because it was like throwback to the ill-gotten deed.
No, it would have been better if they're like, we're leaving in a couple months, and then they did the episode with Mandy and Trent, and then that episode ended with Mandy moving away.
You can tell, obviously, they were not planning on the hiatus, or at least not planning on the hiatus to turn over all the characters at that point yet.
These characters still had many stories ahead of them. That can be completely assured.
Anyways, back to this episode.
So, yes. Anyway, so... confetti, but screaming. That's just... Yeah.
I can't not void humor Night Vale stuff like this when you say it like that. What are your emotions right now? Confetti and screaming.
I can't say it any other way. I can't say I'm happy because I am not. Part of me is happy, but that's a very small part. More so, I'm mad than happy. And because you have to acknowledge it. You don't have to acknowledge it. If you're gonna just leave it there, just leave it there. Don't mention it again. They could have come up with a different reason that Eugene was on the council. Like,
but they had to get that
seriously?
continuity in there.
Seriously, he has looked after Wit's End more times than Connie has.
Yeah, but this is
So,
for
like,
business
way more
owners,
times.
Victoria.
Yeah, I know, but like, isn't there...
No, I don't think that... I can't think of any other reason they could have pulled it off.
Couldn't they come up with some sort of loophole, though? Like,
Oh, they probably could have, but why not?
like the
put it in
writers
Hand Up?
could
They
have,
haven't mentioned it in a
but
while.
Paul's like, no, I'm the continuity genius.
He is.
So we're gonna have continuity. Except for, I love continuity, but not when it does this.
This is like broken continuity. That's the problem.
It's
like, here's what it is.
I would love to have Hand Up mentioned and then just like discussed.
Here's what it is,
that
Victoria.
That would be good if they mentioned in an episode that it had to be shut down right after what happened with the shop and that time zone, like that time period, because of things that happened and they explained it in full. That wouldn't make me mad. Just mentioning it and then not doing anything else with it. That just...
Here's what it is. In a world with perfect tons of continuity all woven together smoothly like Gravity Falls, that's driving along a freshly paved, smooth road.
Amen. That's why I love that show.
Having no continuity and just having stuff kind of disjointed, not mentioning stuff like what we had with Hand Up until now. That's driving...
It's like book movie adaptations.
It's like driving on a dirt road, which is completely unpaved, which is worse than a smooth road, but still, that is better than when you have random little spurts of continuity that just create even more confusion if it was not in the first place, which is having little chunks of asphalt scattered along the dirt road and cause you to fly all over the place and knock your radiator out of your car and dislodge, your axle head and things like that. That's what it is.
It's really jarring.
Exactly.
Like,
it's like driving over a speed bump made of broken asphalt and glass.
Other people, it's not going to bother them.
Because we're the only ones for this
like,
angle.
We're the only ones who care about Hand Up anymore. Probably. Like, no, seriously, I think we're the only ones who care this much about Hand Up. We're literally the only ones.
We should probably wrap this up. We've been talking about this for a long time.
But like, it's kids aren't gonna be like, oh, they mentioned Hand Up.
Kids this day do not appreciate.
Kids this day do not appreciate the importance of Jeff Lewis or Hand Up. Those darn kids. Get off my lawn unless you're gonna perform rants with me about Jeff Lewis and Hand Up. Go back to Connellsville.
Okay, Victoria, what are your final thoughts on this episode, now that we've spent 10 minutes talking about our post-episode discussion?
I really liked this episode. I liked the parts with Jules and Whit. I liked the parts with... I liked the discussions that were held. I thought they did a good job at discussing that. It seemed very realistic. What do you think? The conversations that took place?
Yes. I will give this episode a 4.6 out of 5, because it was very, very good. The stuff with Jules and Whit was emotional and appropriate to both of how they would respond in the situation, and it introduced the surprise and the confusion and a lot more interesting needs to Jules's plot of the idea of her going against her will. The whole meeting went basically exactly how I thought it would go. In terms of like the attitudes of people, except for the huge plot twists that were in it, namely Hand Up, Miss Adelaide's brother, which is like a really interesting new plot element thrown into it, and it was interesting and raises a lot of questions and interesting discussion topics. And biggest plot twist ender to the episode, like Hokey Dinah in a very long time. What's going to happen to Whit? So overall, yes, good episode.
I really liked all the discussions that took place. I'm itching to learn more about Miss Adelaide's brother.
Do you think it's someone that we know already?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think it is.
Not Gay Blackard then.
Not Gay Blackard.
Okay.
Not today.
We can't
Maybe
add
tomorrow.
her. We can't add Miss Adelaide into like the Julie Whittaker, Buck Oliver family tree. which also now includes Eugene and Katrina and my dad, now that they've, now that they're his foster parents.
Don't even start, Devin. I've had enough hand up stuff to deal with. I don't
Just
need
think,
your
it's turning into
theories.
Once Upon a Time, Victoria, because we have like Whit and his kids and his grandkids and his parents and his stepmother, and then you have his sister Julie Whittaker married to Blacker, and Buck Oliver and Eugene and Katrina there, and Leonard and Everett and Hiram and Bernard way over in the corner, second cousins 3 times removed, I think, off the top of my head. And now we have Blackard, or Gay Blackard, who may or may not be the same person, who is also brothers with Miss Adelaide.
That's it. I'm hanging up on you. So, yeah, I thought this episode was really good. I was reminded a little bit of Blackard in album 25 when Whit passed out at the end, along with like Jenny also when she passed out.
Wait, what?
Blackard has
Blackard passing out. I thought you were talking about Whit passing out in album 25 too. No. I was like, he wasn't. What? He was not in the continent.
I'm a little bit worried that Miss Adelaide's gonna be like, oh, can't stand the pressure, so you try and fake your way out of it by pretending to be sick or something.
I don't think she'd do that.
I don't even know about Miss Adelaide anymore. I wouldn't put anything good.
She wouldn't do that though. Oh.
That's like the one thing she wouldn't do.
Yes.
We had to write an essay actually on the weekend and Friday about intolerance.
You did?
Yeah. For
English?
For French. So I was thinking about this when I wrote it.
Interesting. Intolerance in general?
It was, I'm trying to remember what the question was. It was like, has society...
In French, please.
Society has come a long way in tolerance and accepting people, true or false, basically. And so I put like, no, and then I did like a couple paragraphs about sexism and racism, and yeah.
That is the correct answer to that question.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was thinking, like, I'm just like Emily and Matthew and Olivia, because I have to write essays about this, too. Madame Saint-Jacques is... No.
Madame Martin, nice. Maybe, but not Madame Saint-Jacques. No. Don't tell her I said that.
I'm going to tell her you said that. Anyway.
What's your number?
Part of me wants to give this episode a 0. But the rest of it was just so good.
Stop being so petty.
I know.
Come on, Victoria. We're 34 minutes in.
I'm going to give it a 4.5. And also, I was like, when Eugene and Connie were talking, and I'm like, Eugene, you better have stalked Whit Harlow Doyle style when he left. And Eugene didn't. And he's just like, and I'm like, Eugene, what the heck? What are you doing? And speaking of Harlow Doyle, it was very awkward. I saw a picture of Harlow and like official artwork of what Harlow Doyle looks like.
You haven't seen an official picture of Harlow before?
No, I haven't. And he looks nothing like what I thought he would look like. I thought he'd be like this really old guy with like white hair who's like insane. And he's actually, like, really young, good-looking, obviously. And I'm like, what is this?
Well, wait. Did you see the skinny one or the fat one?
Skinny?
Oh, so you saw the one from the original cover for album 14?
I don't know. It looked like the new art design, though.
What?
So
maybe
that. It wasn't him.
Oh, yeah, I guess he is skinnier in the new design.
I don't know. I saw him. I'm like, who is this? He's kind of good-looking. And then it said Harlow Doyle. And I'm like, what?
About. I picture him more as like the early 2000s design for him is how I picture him. Okay, so I guess we've said everything.
I need to see a picture of Harlow because I haven't seen any.
We've said everything now, haven't we?
Pictures of him.
We should probably let people go.
Okay.
What are we talking about next time?
Remember,
Victoria?
people, hand up or die.
Next time.
Manu Sarsam.
Please.
Next time on the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast,
we are going to talk about part 9 and 10 of The Ties That Bind.
Woo!
What a surprise!
Ah.
And that's about it. So here's a super lackluster ending to the episode.
Just remember, guys.
I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzer.
Screaming and confetti.
Goodbye. Good night, Night Vale. Good night.
Screaming.